Hi guys, Mr. Wright here. Going to do a quick test review. It's going to be just a couple things that I want you guys to remember as you're looking over your notes for tomorrow's test. So bear with me, and hopefully you guys can take a look at this and make the most out of your study time tonight so you do well in tomorrow's test. A couple things. So the first thing, there we go. The first thing, if you guys remember that we talked about that I want to remind you about, is kind of how the first government's formed, right? So we came up with two theories that existed before there was history, then two other theories. So let's go to the first two first. And those were obviously the force theory, kind of the schoolyard theory, the strongest force the less strong, the less intelligent to do what they want, thus creating the first governments. Then you've got the evolutionary theory, kind of an extension of that. So then we talked about the divine right theory. And the divine right theory, very, very common. Lots of countries practiced it. But then you have social contract theory, first developed by Hobbes and Locke, as we talked about. And this is a rejection of the divine right theory. So for instance, Hobbes said that a long time ago people lived in this state of nature. He wrote about this in his book Leviathan, and that life was terrible. It was short. Nobody liked it, right? Nasty, brutish, and short is the quote. Then what he said was people made governments in exchange. They gave some of their rights in exchange. They got law and order. Okay, so that is now going to kind of chink at the divine right theory. Now people, God doesn't send you your king. God doesn't send you your president. People kind of volunteer for that because they want law and order. Introduce John Locke. John Locke says all people are born with three rights, life, liberty, and property, and that it's through these three rights that if government doesn't protect one of these, then we have the right to get a new government. There's a right to revolution if government doesn't protect those. Okay, so make sure you guys know the difference between Hobbes and Locke. Remember, Locke said that there were three rights the government had to watch, and then Hobbes wrote the Leviathan, kind of came up with that initially. Types of nations, this is really easy. Population, territory, sovereignty, government. Sovereignty, make sure you know what that word means. Purpose of government, social order, law and order, public goods, sewers, schools, military, and then some type of economic system. We talked about government structures. Unitary versus federal, right? Unitary, only one level of government. Federal government system is where we divide government between a national government, state government, local government. That's what we have in the United States. It allows for each area to do things a little bit differently, but then a big national umbrella government. That's the way we do it here. Talk much more about that later in the year. Autocracy, ruled by one. Oligarchy, ruled by a few, maybe the military, maybe a certain clan or something. And then, of course, democracy. Democracy is when the people rule. We talked about direct democracy, impractical for most countries because they're too big. Representative democracy, of course, is when people elect representatives to make decisions for them, right? We talked about four characteristics of a democracy. Individual liberty, people can basically do what they want. Majority rule with minority rights. There are some things that no matter how big the majority is, they can't do the minority. They can't take away someone's freedom to exercise their religion as they see fit. They can't take away someone's freedom of speech just if what they're saying is a little voice, unpopular in the minority, right? Talked about free elections, bunch of different characteristics that go into that, but make sure that you know about free elections. We talked about competing political parties, know what a political party is, all right? Active citizen participation, that's where a democracy does well. Free choice, right? People can make economic decisions. They got to be literate. They have to join groups that link them to government. That's strong civil society. Social consensus, right? Remember, all people have to believe in democratic values like freedom of speech, freedom of religion, that government has to be limited, things like this. Everybody's got to believe in that. They might disagree on the limits of what those things are, but you got to agree on that. All right, so economic systems, this is what we finished with. Capitalism. Remember, when you think of capitalism, you're going to think of choice, right? Choice where you work, choice what you buy, choice where you invest, choice what you make. So business, If you want to start a business, you got just choice, 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 right? Remember choice. Okay, now 5 characteristics. You got to have that property. People have to own their property in order to have capitalism work. It's one of the reasons why America is really thriving under capitalism. There's lots of land here, and people could get that land, especially in the early days of our country's history. Competition, remember, monopolies are bad for capitalism. We need competition. We need freedom of choice. We talked about that. Possibility profits. People have to believe that if they work hard, show a little ingenuity, get a little lucky, maybe they can make a lot of money, right? Origins of capitalism, we talked about the 2 things that cause it to form. This happens way back during prehistory. Then we go to Adam Smith, 1776, writes The Wealth of Nations. That's exciting. He says laissez-faire, government should stay out of the economy. But then in America today, government does get involved in the economy, but minorly, right? They regulate the economy if the free market is threatened, meaning if there's going to be a monopoly, they'll go in there and break it up. They also regulate safety, pollution, what's in food and drugs, things like that. Government regulation is a fact of life. We have a mixed market economy. Socialism, remember, the government owns key elements. Maybe they'll own the healthcare system. Maybe they'll own the railroads. Maybe they'll own certain mines. In America, we have elements of socialism. For instance, public schools, that's socialism. But by and large, we don't have a ton of socialism, but we do flirt with it from time to time. And then a lot of countries are socialist. Great Britain, Norway, Sweden, good examples. So next thing, communism. Not a lot on communism. Karl Marx thought it up. Bourgeoisie, the people who owned the means of production. Proletariat, the people who worked to produce goods. Marx concluded that the bourgeoisie would get killed by the proletariat. Then everything would be held in common, and that was Marx. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work for a number of different reasons. Primarily is people are no longer invested to make a profit because they know that whether they work or they don't, everything is going to be provided for in common. And that's a big problem with communism. All right, test tomorrow. Study. Do well. See you tomorrow. Bye.